his hands trembling, blood on his shirt, whispering verses from Psalms. The man lying motionless on the cold concrete floor wasn't a stranger. It was Ethan Brooks, the church's beloved choir director, and the weapon, still warm, resting on a nearby table. This wasn't a random act of violence. This was something far more complicated, something that had been building in silence for months. What could drive a man of God, a shepherd to hundreds, to take the life of someone he once called a friend? These are the questions that haunted Montgomery for months, because this wasn't just a crime. It was a collision of faith, fear, and forbidden love. And as investigators began peeling back the layers, they realized that what happened in that church basement wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the end. The real story started 6 months earlier, when a talented young man with a guitar and a warm smile walked through the doors of Grace Community Baptist for the very first time. Montgomery, Alabama is the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. It's a town built on tradition, faith, and community. And at the heart of that community was Grace Community Baptist Church, a modest brick building on the corner of Elm and Washington, where families had gathered for generations. Leading that church was Pastor David Langston, 47 years old, married to his high school sweetheart Rebecca for 26 years. They had 2 grown children, both off at college, both following in their father's footsteps of service and faith. David wasn't just a pastor. He was a counselor, a mentor, a voice of reason in times of crisis. When families struggled, they turned to him. When marriages faltered, he was the one who helped put them back together. He organized food drives, visited the sick, and spent countless hours preparing sermons that moved people to tears. To his congregation, David Langston was more than a spiritual leader. He was a living example of what it meant to walk with God. But like all of us, David was human. And humans, no matter how devoted, carry secrets. Ethan Brooks arrived in Montgomery in early March, fresh off a painful divorce and looking for a fresh start. He was 32, soft-spoken, with dark hair that always seemed just a little too long, and a voice that could fill a room without effort. Music was his life. He'd been leading worship teams since he was a teenager, and when he heard that Grace Community was looking for a new choir director, he didn't hesitate to apply. David interviewed him personally. They talked for over an hour, about faith, about loss, about what it meant to rebuild after everything falls apart. David saw something in Ethan that day. Maybe it was potential. Maybe